Hello, and you're very welcome to the Town End podcast. It's the end of the season, so that means it's season review time. We're going to look back on the season that was 2025. We're in a little different setting than the normal little boxes that we normally see each other in our houses. We are here in the Spirit Store tonight, and we are joined by a live audience for a change. Yes, we have a jam-packed show tonight, so we're going to start off with a bit of a season review with Dundalk Democrats' Niall Newberry. We then have a bit of a club update from John Temple and Nita Whelan. We have a small little break, and then we'll come back with Ciaran Kilduff and Eoin Kenny. It wouldn't be our end of season show unless we have some sort of a musical act, and tonight we'll be joined by local talent Finian also. Gents,
Chris,
how are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gally and Steph. Gally, I think, when we done our season preview way back when in the Lily White and we sat down with Ciaran and Ken that time, I don't think even we predicted the season would go this well.
No, and if you take into context what happened within kind of 6-7 weeks before Ciaran and Ken got the gig, and probably around this time last year, where we almost became out of existence. Dundalk FC wasn't going to be there anymore. Within a couple of hours, that famous video of RTE up in Oriel Park, the late Maxie was there as well, all the Crilly fans just from getting together, and unfortunately having to go up there and make a spectacle of the farce that had happened, and the fact that we were going to close down, and then to get in the management committee that they did, and the management staff, and to sit here now at the end of the 2025 season and talk about winning that. It's an unbelievable 12 months. I mean, it's a crazy turnaround for a club that probably would have accepted 2 or 3 years in the first division because of what happened last year and because of where we were. But I mean, to win in the way we did and to be consistent the whole season, you got to be the best team in the league to win it, and this is what you get at the end of it.
Steph, even in your wildest dreams, could you imagine we would have won the title this year?
Yeah, look, I think it was, important that we were a football club, like Gally said, to be just in the league and competing. But, I think as you were looking towards the season, you were saying, as big a club as Dundalk was, we were attracting a few players at the time. You were hoping to be involved in the playoffs. But I think Ciaran alluded to it on the night up in Oriel Park, the pre-season preview that we done, that the first game was imperative. We got off to a good start. It was all about getting the fans involved, creating that atmosphere that we were used to on a match night on Friday night, getting back to looking forward to winning games, looking forward to going up to Oriel Park. And I think that was probably the catalyst to traject us into an important season and a successful one, thank God.
Yeah, well, look, it's that season, I suppose, that we want to look back on. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome on our first guest tonight. So, please welcome Dundalk Democrats' Niall Newberry. Niall, you're very welcome. Nice to have you in person. Look, we've talked so often throughout the season. I suppose if we go right back to the very start, Niall, when Ciaran's trying to assemble the squad together, and we see a real mix of players attracted into Oriel Park. We have some familiar faces coming back for another stint in Oriel Park, some real stalwarts of League of Ireland, but then some real young talent, probably unknown talent at that stage.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, lads. Can I just say, I want to say, Chris, it was never in doubt. You nearly cancelled me and Andy a couple of weeks ago for jumping the gun nearly. But I think, the start of the season, I suppose, if you're going to do any sort of season review for Dundalk season this year, it'd be a bit remiss to kind of not give any sort of context to. I know Gally kind of already touched on it about what the club had kind of faced last season. For Ciaran Kilduff, the manager coming in, this was a club that didn't even have a licence until I think it was early December, and we couldn't sign any players up until that point. So this wasn't an ideal job for him. I mean, it was a club that had just evaded liquidation. It was a club that over a 6-year period, I mean, not even counting the 2024 accounts, which are due to come out, I had accumulated a €2.8 million loss, I mean, in that time as well. So, I mean, it was a very tough sort of job. And I suppose, yeah, the club's hand was kind of forced in a sense of blending youth and experience. I mean, 18 players had the power of the club, first teamers, 11 new players were brought in. The gaps were kind of filled by sort of academy products, which, you know, have really excelled this season. You know, you think of the likes of Vinnie Leonard and Owen Kenny and, you know, and there's like Sean Keogh, who's obviously not here anymore, but has gone to Brighton and Hove Albion. So, I mean, it was something that Ciaran was very sort of, I mean, we spoke about it in the podcast like several times in terms of, you know, we always want, I think I was on towards the end of last season or maybe the season before, talking to you about, you know, wanting to see more academy players. The way other League of Ireland clubs had always kind of done it. I think I was sitting in Gibraltar actually talking to you about this.
That's right, you have a lovely background.
And I don't know how we actually got onto that topic. But I think the club's hand was kind of forced at this stage. And it's worked for the better. I mean, we've got the trophy sitting here beside us and they want to let it canter. So yeah, I think Ciaran has done a tremendous job, and it's been really great to see the blend of youth and experience. You know, experienced pros like Darrell Horgan and Darvin, Peter Cherry. You know, like Mayoa Anamasahoon is only 22, but is one of the experienced heads now at this stage. So it's been kind of great to see that blend, and it's really worked well for us. I
don't think in anyone's wildest dreams here in the room could we imagined the start even that we had to the season. 3 1-0 victories. The one that really stands out, of course, is the one down in Kerry. Leo Gaxa's early sending off 36 minutes in, and to hold out, like that sort of stubbornness, you know, we didn't really see the previous season. We probably seen a fragility in that team. But we started to see maybe the structures of something a lot more solid.
Yeah, I think it's funny, like I asked Ciaran last week down in Cove, I mean, about if there was a standout moment or a standout, you know, watershed sort of time where they felt like promotion's definitely in the offing here. And I mean, like, if you were to simplify, if you were to answer that question, I suppose the 4 wins over Cove would probably be the obvious answers. But I mean, he did reference that early part of the season that you just mentioned, Chris. I mean, like, they weren't winning pretty, like they had to win ugly. I mean, even the first game, I mean, Athlone, I know I appreciate Athlone ended up finishing bottom of the pile, but I mean, at that time, along with ourselves and Cove, they were among the favourites to get promotion. They'd signed a lot of good players, some of which we ended up taking in the summer. But I mean, to get that game 1-0, great crowd at the Royal that night, you know, it was quite an emotional night for the club, given that everything that had happened beforehand. So to actually have a team on the pitch, I think everybody here would have probably taken that at that stage. But then to win the game 1-0, kind of had to grind it out. The following week, you play Finn Harps down in Ballybuffet. I was down myself. I mean, I think I spoke to Sean Keogh after that game, and he said when he stepped onto the pitch, he sank by 10 centimetres. Like, you know what I mean? It was the pitch was a bog that night, and I mean, it was a real flavour. I mean, the first game against Athlone had that kind of feel to it, but I mean, the Finn Harps game for me kind of was the real first introduction into first division football. I mean, Harps were a very tough opponent that night. We ended up getting Sean Keogh got the early free kick. But we had to really grind it out and hold off for the 1-0 win. But then, as you mentioned, the following week in Kerry, I mean, Leo Gaxa, we actually took the lead in that game, but then Leo Gaxa, I think there was still about an hour to play in that game, and I think he done his best Bruce Lee impression. And we were down to 10 players. So, I mean, and that, to me, at least, there was a great crowd from Dundalk down that night who stayed over and stuff like that. But to me, that was definitely one of the standout games, because you could see even in the celebrations after that night in Tralee, I mean, I think you could see the players really start to believe that night. And it wasn't pretty stuff. It was real first division fare. But I mean, that's what you need to do to get promoted in this division. We know ourselves. I mean, the last time Dundalk got relegated in 2002, I mean, we were all kind of thinking we just won the FAI Cup, and we were all thinking we're going to go straight back up. We ended up spending 7 seasons down there. I mean, so to get up in the first season in the way they have, it's been remarkable, and it's a real testament to the squad of players and Ciaran Kilduff and the staff. It really is.
Steph, we were talking about wake-up calls throughout that season. The next home game is a 2-2 draw with Treaty. We're 2 up, and we think we've got this first division stuff. This is easy. It's our first wake-up call that day. Yeah,
and it was a good reminder to all the players that it wasn't going to be plain sailing. I think the manner which we we drew the game as well. We were in front. I think we might have been 2-0 up, and then 2 late goals to really give us a sucker punch. And you're sort of leaving Oriel Park a bit deflated at the time. But yeah, I think that it was the best medicine to give the players, because you know, if they go and think it's easy and they run into the next game, then becomes complacent. And we went unbeaten for a good stretch after that. So yeah, it was probably the perfect come back down to earth, and it probably done Ciaran Kilduff's job for him a little bit, rather because look, you had a young squad, you had the experience mixed in there as well, but it would have been hard to keep the boys' feet in the ground, I'm sure, at that early stage. So yeah, it was sort of an ideal result when you look back. Probably not at the time when you're cursing them coming out of Oriel, but yeah, it was probably ideal.
Gally, we go down to Bray and we're the first game on the new pitch. You know, TJ Malloy gets his first goal and is the youngest scorer for the club as well. But the game after that, the Longford game, the 2-1 win, it's the game that I always remember is Andy Parashchev kind of announces himself to Oriel Park for the way he set up that winner for Owen Kenny that night.
Yeah, I think that was, I still remember the podcast after that game, and we kind of heard about him, we seen bits and pieces of him, and we knew the team, that, like Niall was saying, we knew the team was young, he'd signed players, but there was always this kind of, when this guy's name was mentioned, there was always a kind of wee bit of enigma at the backers. So this boy, he seems to be like a street footballer, seems to be just someone who's naturally talented, and we hadn't really seen a lot, because we seen him even later in the season, I suppose, we seen him in nitpicking game. We didn't see him in a lot of matches, but in that night, I don't know who he gave a famous pizza to that night, but if he didn't get it, or he didn't get a slice of it, you could see straight away the impact he has, whether it's coming off the bench, whether it's starting. Unfortunately, he probably started less games throughout the season than he probably should have or wanted to, but he has that impact that he can just turn anything, any kind of defender inside out. He's just a natural player, wants the ball, demands the ball. I mean, that was the night we really kind of said, right, we've an absolute player here. The problem then, of course, as the season went on, with a lot of young players, was could we hang on to them? And Parashchev is definitely up there, one of the best signings we've had at that age over the last couple of seasons. Just a natural footballer, natural ability, he can play right across the park. And for me, he's probably one of those that, probably when we signed him, we don't know how many clubs will maybe looking at him, but I think we've definitely found a gem there. I think the likes of Ken Kieran's youth football, and having him at a youth level and knowing the youth academy around Dublin, North Dublin, really benefited us there on that kind of player.
You know, Niall, it's something we don't have too many players who would have the imagination to do what he done that day. You know, he sends the defender the complete wrong way, pulls the ball back, suddenly he's into space and bends a lovely ball around for Owen at the back post.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the night. I mean, what's also significant about that game was I think we were missing a few players that night as well. I mean, that was the first international window, and I think we'd 4 or 5 called up who would have to go off in international duty. So obviously, it's been well documented in the Premier. There's a rule where games are obviously not played on the international weekends. First Division, we kind of had to suck it up and deal with it this year, and we did. But yeah, for Andy Parashchev, I mean, he's just one of them players that kind of, where we had to be creative. I mean, he's playing for Glebe North in the Leinster Senior League. I mean, like, I don't think anybody in this room possibly would have heard of him at that stage. Came in, like, it's probably a tad unlucky not to have played more this season, actually, in terms of starting matches. I mean, if the team wasn't performing so well, he probably would be, that kind of way. So, but it was, I mean, it was again, that was another standout sort of result for us, because I think we went behind in that game as well. And that's another thing that this team has done, I think, throughout the season. It wasn't just like, obviously you referenced the 2-2 against Treaty after winning the first 3 matches, but I think they went on to win 3 in a row after that 3 matches. I mean, it's the way the team have responded at different times in the season, and even in games sometimes as well. I mean, the Longford game being a good example of that, of going 1-0 down, missing essentially nearly half your team. And there was a few injuries as well that night too. So, I mean, to then go and win the game 2-1 with a piece of magic from Andy Parashchev, it was a real standout sort of, again, a standout moment of many standout moments in what has been a remarkable season.
Gally, we kind of, like Niall just said, we kind of went on a run. We beat UCD, we beat Cove at home. Then came another tricky period for us again. We drew a Treaty away, and then we drew with Harps at home, and that was a late equaliser as well. It kept feeling like we were just getting the momentum going, and then we'd hit something that made us kind of, whether focus come back into the team or make Ciaran and Ken think of, maybe little tweaks that's needed into the team.
Yeah, I think, you can't underestimate First Division football. I think that we mentioned a lot of time in the podcast, the physicality of it. The difference with drawing games here was that we were going behind in matches throughout the season, or just not having the greatest of starts in match. If we go back 12 months ago, when we were going behind and not having the best starts, we never got it back. We couldn't get it and going back. We never had a second half. Half-time team talks, I don't know what was going on. They just couldn't get... There was no kind of spirit in the second half to go and chase the game to go behind. Whereas this team, we mentioned so many times the mentality of them, even though they're young. Ken, and Liam Bournes was there earlier in the season as well. These already galvanised the group to get them mentally ready for football. Even though they hadn't got a lot, like you say, Andy, at Glebe North, probably not ready for the man's game, I suppose, in First Division, because that's what it is. It's a very physical league. But the difference with this team, and even Treaty became a bogey team for us, like Bray a long time ago in the Premier Division under Stephen Kenny as well. But we were able to get together and create a situation where we could afford to go behind. Last year we always gave up chances, whereas this team, if they gave up a chance, it was rare. And we were able to defend it. We were probably the best set of defenders for the first part of the season. We go through goals and stats, but I mean, young Vinnie Leonard playing centre back. I mean, we go back to the pre-season chat that we had with the two coaches. His name didn't even come up. We had Luke Mulligan, we mentioned, with Keith Ward, Dave Devlin. We ironically made a joke with Dave Devlin at the time that he might get a win eventually. But I mean, look at the season he's had as one of the vice captains, one of the leaders of the team. But that wee period that we had, although frustrated, and look, we go back to many a podcast getting, are they ready for it? Can they do it? The difference was that even at Dundalk, and I said it umpteen times, even our 60, 70, 80% was better than everybody else's 100. And that was the difference. The boys had put together a group of players that could afford to take their foot off the gas a little bit, not too much, but still be better than the rest of the league. And even though we've had a bit of a blip, the likes of your Treaty, your Finn Harps, late equalisers, at least we were getting the late equalisers. Whereas last year, getting late crosses in, we weren't doing anything in matches. We were behind and that was it. Yeah. Whereas this team seemed to get that in mental side of thing right, that if we drop behind, we'll always get a chance to get back into it. I think that's what Ciaran and the boys instilled in them.
Steph, we talked about kind of stop-start, but checkpoints every time. Niall's alluded to it already. Just when we had a poor run of form, which we kind of had coming into the start of May, there was a 0-0 draw with Athlone. We drew with Bray at home 2-2 after being 2-1 up in that match. Then we're going down to Cove. Suddenly we pulled out probably one of the performances of the year. Daryl Horgan and Arubi in with more goals in there. And that seemed to be like a checkpoint every so often in our season when we had to really up our game and play Cove.
Yeah, and look, that's a sign of a really good team. You're looking forward to playing the best teams in the league, and the proverbial 6-pointer, I suppose. If someone's chasing you and you can get that 3 points over them, just put that gap between them and really affirm that you're a better side than them, you're a better footballing team. And we were able to do that every single time we played against Cove. So yeah, it was great for the team, and I'm sure they were like marking it as it was coming up, saying, look, we've big match coming up, and it was a big build up, and all the players showed up for the big game, and you can't fault them at all for that. So it was great, because you see the likes of Hogan showing up in the big games, and I'm sure some of the younger lads, you see them talking about learning off the likes of Hogan and training, and then for him to actually go and do it in the big games, I'm sure that would have given them the confidence then to go and do it as well. And like you said, Ruby coming up with a goal as well, and it really, really propels his season then to score against one of the best teams in the league. And it probably gives him the confidence, because he'd been plagued with injuries. We were talking him up in pre-season, saying he was going to be this really exciting winger, and then he transforms himself into the number 9 and finishes as top goal scorer for us. So yeah, look, I think the likes of that would have really boosted him playing in the big games, scoring in the big games, like a proper centre forward should.
Yeah. Niall, we think we've got the show back on the road again. A draw at home to UCD, another draw this time at home to Treaty. And we're thinking, can we possibly do this full season unbeaten, and then it's a Monday night back up to Harps again? Bad weather conditions. It's set up. It's the hardest fixture around, midweek and poor conditions up in Finn Harps.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, you'd seen at different times of the year, even before that the team had sort of hit different speed bumps at different times, but they'd always kind of got a result of some description, whether it be a draw or a narrow win. But it was the game up in Ballybofey, the second game up there, where we lost 1-0. And I think that was the same night Leo Gaxi got the bad ACL injury as well. So I think there was 2 draws, as you mentioned, Chris, before that. I mean, you're really starting to question at that stage, like, that obviously ended Leo's season. and you're starting to question, you're like, is our luck starting to change a wee bit here? You know, we'd been lucky in some games. I mean, you go back to the UCD win, the 1-0. I mean, we've mentioned the pitch in Finn Harps the first time. When you win the second game, when you play UCD, the first away game against them 1-0, the pitch was even worse. We've had the really grind out results, but I mean, and we were lucky in a lot of games. The Kerry game as well with 10 players, as we already kind of mentioned. But that Harps game, the second one, I think it was a midweek game or it was a Monday game or something. Monday night game, yeah. So I think we still had a reasonable crowd that travelled up as well, if I remember as well. So that was quite good. But I mean, yeah, it was. You did kind of the thoughts that night where is our luck changing a wee bit? You know, Leo was a big part of our season at that stage. I think he probably would end up with a lot more goals and a lot more assists. We obviously the likes of Gip Emmy and Darryl Horgan and Owen Kenny and even Dean Ebby got double figures in the end. But Leo Gaxa probably would have got a lot more had he been playing the rest of the season. So because he was on a really good run of form at that stage, and yeah, you had the question whether our luck was changing, and luckily we kind of pulled it out of the bag again after that, you know.
Gally, another checkpoint comes. It's Cove at home. Aruby pops up for a winner, and then we got a big win, 4-0 win down in Kerry. Then followed that. It seemed we're getting things back on the road again.
Yeah, the big thing was we were giving up less chances. So you know, a big thing that we wanted not that we wanted it, but we wanted to see from the Dundalk was that could we keep clean sheets? Could we be strong at the back and get goals on the far end? We just hadn't. We spent a year probably, you know, in the last kind of setup regime, whatever you want to call it. You know, we were just conceding. Anytime we conceded. Without repeating myself, it's just we were out of the game. That was it. You know, like whereas we couldn't even keep clean sheets. We couldn't score on the other end. Obviously, Famously had a goal scorer last year. Couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. And now we have, like you say, we had Leo Gaxa, who uninjured probably would have gone into the double figures. We had a Ruby coming through the big game in Cove. But games like that kind of set up. They were all kind of they're almost like mini leagues where we kind of had a bit of a run, bit of a lull, but not being bet and not being battered. We were still not easily, but going off on one podcast, I talk about easily controlling the league, but we were never easily controlled. But we always had a little bit of a short blip, what we were considering a blip because you're used to winning games, if we're talking about this season. But then we get those results and we're like 3-0 or 4-0 or whatever it may be. But we come off the field thinking, God, we could have scored more. And we were never going to concede. We just had one of those games, and we would have won those games intermittently in the Premier Division even. But now it just seems to be a consistent thing. It's not that we were too good for the league, nothing like that. It just seems we had a real kind of. There seemed to be a real kind of potency about them. The kind of, the lads had obviously instilled whatever, tactics that they wanted, whatever fitness levels that they wanted. It was a big mental thing for them as well, that if they got that right, then they were almost unbeatable every week they played. Now, a lot of draws, probably too many for your liking, but I mean, at the end of the year then, you've come away with going down to the Cove and with your league already won. But those little results in the middle, despite the little lulls, were massive kind of catapults onto bigger games then. But, Treaty, obviously, we've mentioned, who were a bit of a bogey team for us, but those draws and those little maybe 1-0 wins that we kept going on every show, every week we done a show, it was 1-0, 1-this, it was always one. But they are kind of little stepping stones to the big ones, the 7-0s, the 4-0, all this what we would have had later in the year when the team were kind of gelled together. We had our new signings in Wilson and McGlade and things like that. But yeah, at McGlade, watching the other night. But these players are kind of shrewd signings along with the young players again, with a half a season under their belt. That's why you get these results later on in the season.
Steph, we're going to give you the best part to come in because it just seemed we started to get our confidence back. We go to Longford. Longford at home. It's 4-1 victory. We go the 6-1 victory over at Lone. Suddenly we were looking at that goal difference, going, can we actually really add to it? But we had there was a 1-0 away to UCD. That's of course the Darryl Horgan penalty, and then one saved with the last kick of the ball up in the bowl that night. But that 7-0 Treaty away, you add those 3-4 results there, that would seem to be a real turning point of we could actually do this for sure now.
Yeah, it was probably confirmation that, we were one of the dominant teams in the league, and probably to give the players the real belief that, we can really put teams to the sword, scoring goals and not conceding. I know you talked about that game in UCD as well, but you're going to have games like that. It was just that purple patch just at the right time. It's sort of, you need that extra spurt then just after the mid-season break to really have found that, you have your title aspirations. I'm sure Ciaran and Ken was probably trying to, dampen down so the boys don't get ahead of themselves. But yeah, when you're rattling off wins like that, you're listening to the final whistle and you're looking forward to the start of the next game. So I'm sure the boys were bouncing in the training and, rattling off them scores, boys getting goals, and obviously the defence keeping clean sheets. Just, it's a recipe for success.
Niall, they say at Dundalk we don't do things the easy way. So after gaining all this confidence, suddenly we throw away, it's a 3-3 draw against Kerry. We get hit with international call-ups in going to Wexford as well. It's a 0-0 draw that time. Pull it back maybe for a victory over Bray, but then we go and we lose to Longford, and there's that draw with Athlone at the end, and you're kind of thinking, if Cove pulls something here, we could see our points probably closing in slightly, and that little element of worry in the back of all our heads that could we throw this away at the very end?
I think it was the Bray game that I was on, and I was saying it was nearly done, wasn't it?
Yes,
Then we ended up drawing. We ended up losing.
We followed it with a 3-2 to Longford.
We ended up losing in Longford, and then drawing down again in Athlone. And I was starting to think, I was starting to doubt it myself, Chris, and I was thinking, I was starting to become like you. Yeah, I was starting to become like you. Maybe the two of us have been following Aston Villa too long. I don't know, but there was a bit of doubt starting to creep into my own mind of I think you're nearly sensing that we needed the season to end nearly. I mean, the players have put on the big shift the whole year. It's the first division, as you said. I mean, it's not an easy slog. It really isn't. And I think we kind of needed the season to finish at that point. I mean, obviously, the home games, the wins against UCD and the Bray one, I think those home wins are basically what got us over the line in the end. I mean, the home record, we didn't lose a game at home all season. I mean, you have to go back to the final home match of last year to go back to our last league home defeat anyway. And that's been a real catalyst for us. I mean, I think, even going into next year, into the Premier Division, where it's going to be a much harder task, a much harder set of opponents, you really do feel that the Oriel Park factor is going to be huge for us because, even last season, when we got relegated, I mean, we'd beaten Shamrock Rovers at home, we'd drawn with Shelbourne, who were the champions at home. I mean, we always have a tendency to get results at Oriel Park, even Europe, going back further. I don't think we've lost a European game at home since Hajduk Split came, at Oriel Park, that is. I mean, there's something about Oriel Park where teams just don't like coming to it, and the First Division teams were no different. I think a lot of First Division teams, with the greatest respect, probably used to smaller crowds and lesser atmospheres, probably got a bit of a culture shock a lot of the time coming to Oriel this year, and it really worked in our favour. It'll work in our favour again next year. The likes of Shamrock Rovers and Shelbournes and Droghedas and Derry Cities and Pats, Bows, etc. They're not going to relish the prospect of coming to Oriel Park. And I mean, but yeah, the Athlone and the Longford games, you really were. I was at both of them, and the performances weren't of the same standard that we're used to, or we've grown to become used to with this team. So you had to really question, because they're a young squad as well, and I mean, they are the average age of that squad has to be 21, 22 at best. I mean, you really had to start questioning, was there an element of doubt starting to creep into the squad, not just ourselves, but the team itself. But luckily, I think the home wins are really what got us over the line in that last 1 or 2 months of the season is really what got us over the edge.
Yeah. The only thing is, with the question marks that came and went, it set up the final home game to be able to lift the trophy there against Harps. The display, it was all set up nicely. I know from working with Nita in the background, we're planning so much, hoping that there's a trophy left at the end of this, but also knowing there's 90 minutes of football and anything can happen. But if you could end the season in any way, that's how you want to end it, isn't it?
Of course, like Niall said, if you want to win your game, if you've got a game to play for a league title, you wanted to get, as much as, from a football perspective point of view, a trip to Cove to win it with the two teams at the top of the league would have been great, but nobody wants to make that trip. You don't want that long drive home if you haven't done anything. So, at home, Finn Harps, look, it's not just Shamrock Rovers, it's not just Shelbourne, but it might as well be when you've been down where we've been from the last 12 months and over a decade ago as well. You would have played anybody at home. Somebody said at the start of the season, you'll go to the second last game of the season to win at home for the league. You would have bit their arm off. Yeah. Now, I would have wanted it 6 games ago, but that's just the idiot in me. I thought we would have got it about 4 games ago, but that's football. Yeah, that's football. And probably we should have if we hadn't got the certain results in the last couple of months. But to have it at home with the crowd that was there, And the celebration, it would have been awful to have all that stuff ready to go. And we couldn't bring it out onto the field. Poor Nita and all the work they're doing behind the scenes. But I mean, it was almost Premier Division. You know, it was almost that kind of atmosphere. That's what we wanted. You know, like Cork back in the day. You know, that epic game with Brian Garland and Stephen O'Donnell scored the goals. Maybe not the same kind of level, I suppose, but for what we've done this season, that was the perfect way to do it. You know, as much as it's stressful and you want the game, you know, you want it done a couple of games ago, maybe 2 games ago, but to have it back at Oriel Park, to do it there, yeah, you couldn't have wrote it better.
No, it's only when we look back at it, it's, you know, the season literally done this so much. I suppose finally, is there only one game in particular? Or was it that final game at home to Harps? Like I said, had that big game atmosphere? Was it those kind of ground out victories over Cove, or was there another game that kind of stood out as the moment for you?
I think, like, obviously, as we mentioned, I mean, the 4 games over Cove would have to be seen as the ones that kind of got us over there. I mean, that's 12 points off the bat against your nearest challengers, and in fairness, you have to give Cove a lot of credit. I mean, Dundalk won this division by got a point more than Cork City did last year. Cork obviously won it at Cantor and more or less had the division won by the summer. So we had to give credit to Cove Ramblers as well, in the sense that they really battled till almost the very end. So like those 4 games, you think of the one, like the first away game in Cove, I think Gibemi Ruby got the goal and Darrell Horgan played really well that night as well. I mean, they're the ones you kind of have to look at if you're going to look at it from a sort of very sort of clinical sort of and, you know, technical sort of way. But I mean, I do go back to the likes of the Finn Harps game earlier in the season, the Kerry game, as you mentioned at the start of the show there, Chris. I mean, they're the ones, like, it was those little wins, it was those hard fought ones, because that's what the first division's like. I mean, it's battle hardened, and you have to be like that. So I mean, I'd say if I pick one game, I mean, the standout game obviously has to be the Finn Harps game at the end. I mean, like, that did feel like I was talking to a lot of people even like in the week after that, and a lot of people who've been going to Oriel Park for a number of years were telling me that, like, it actually meant more, or it felt like more than winning the Premier up there. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just with everything that the club had kind of gone through, and like this time last year, like we were sat talking about, you know, was there going to be a club at all? And we don't want to go into the same stuff over and over again. Well, I mean, I think the emotion of that night, Ciaran obviously spoke to me at the start of the year, and I mean, he said that the Athlone game, which was also a standout game as well, that would be a big emotional night for the club. This game against Finn Harps was tenfold. I mean, the scenes after that, the players with their families, the supporters out there, I mean, it was really, 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 it was something special. And I suppose, like, there's been so many little moments, throughout the season that have stood out, but I think the celebrations and the way we ended it, even Vinnie Leonard getting the goal at the end, I mean, a real full circle moment. He got the first goal in Oriel against Athlone, got the last one in injury time, Q, pitch invasion. I mean, it's something that will live long in the memory for everybody here, I'm sure. And hopefully, like, we are back, and hopefully we're there to stay. But I mean, you couldn't finish off by giving the credit to Ciaran Kilduff, the players, the staff. You know, like, obviously John Temple, the owner, really pulled the wire as well. I mean, and sort of stayed the ship off the field. There's been so many people to name at the club, but I mean, for Ciaran himself, like the manager, I mean, if you ever, like, again, I can't reiterate enough, we'd no squad, we'd no players, financial difficulties, no licence until December, to then go and win your first 3 games. I think he was the first Dundalk manager since Liam Toohey in 1969 to win his first 3 League of Ireland matches as manager of Dundalk. So that kind of gives you an indication of how they kind of hit the ground running. And they were top from the first week to the very last. They ended up with obviously the best points tally, naturally winning it, best goals scored, least goals conceded. You couldn't really ask them for much more than that, to be fair. Yeah.
Look, it's just strange when we look back on the season. It's you know, it's easy at the end, and you see the points gap, and you think it was all plain sailing. But I think it's when you look back on it, you realise the pitfalls and the things that we had to overcome to secure the title. That's it for the first part. So just please thank you again from the Dundalk Democrat, Niall Newberry. So last year we had David Keenan, which ended up becoming our theme tune, play some musical acts, I suppose, in the middle of the show. So we decided here live, we'd love to plug into the local talent. So please give a warm welcome to Finian.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? I'm going to sing one of my songs for you. This is called Holding On. And I wore black and white tonight for the town as well.
Spent some years in Reno in a state of disarray. I played country songs in country bars, drowned in sweet decay. I played weddings, wakes and funerals, roamed from town to town, lay my head on widows' pillows as their lovers hit the ground. Their lovers hit the ground. Blooded signs and effigies, stained and stolen heart, left for dead a renegade who long outplayed his part. In a war of pure attrition, in every drinking song, it's hard to tell what's missing when every word feels wrong. When every word feels wrong, I just keep holding on, holding on, holding on for you. Wasted, wounded, wandering, lonely, beat up soul, stoned and roaming freely, but a prisoner of the world. The freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Then why have I been rambling in someone else's shoes? In someone else's shoes. I just keep holding on, holding on, holding on for you. I just keep holding on, holding on, holding on for you. Holding on for you.
This evening,
It's my black and white, it's my black and white scarf.
Okay, brilliant to be able to showcase local talent like that, and brilliant performance there from Finian. Now we're at the real business end of the podcast. It's probably the one that most people have come here to see. It's been a roller coaster of a season. We've kind of gone through it, but someone had to guide us there, and what a better person. This guy was already a club legend, I suppose, at the club from his playing days, and now he's come in and managed to bring us back to the promised land of the Premier Division. And along with him, another local talent, someone who we've definitely adopted in here in Dundalk as one of our own, and has absolutely blitzed this season. please be upstanding, I think would be just about right, for Ciaran Kilduff and Eoin Kenny.
All I have is my black and white
Lads, how are you?
All good. How are you? Thanks for having us.
All good, all good. Ciaran, last year up in the Lillywhite, we sat and you called from calm for the fans that, you know, that we needed to stay with the club for as long as we could. We went through a difficult time. We're looking down the barrel of a season with a little bit of uncertainty. You had confidence. Fair play to you. Is that what you, like, could you even have imagined a season like this?
I suppose even listening to John and Nita previously, like, there was probably there was an element of hope. John was telling the truth. I was probably, the objective for me was to look after the footballing side of things, and straight away the first thing I needed was staff and players. And I knew getting Ken early was someone who I'd worked with and I'm very close with on a personal level as well, that I needed to get him in the building. People like Jerry Spain who know the club very well. So straight away I was building probably a good group of people, forgetting coaching qualifications or anything like that. It was good people in the building, and there was a difficult period because I think 18 players moved on in total. Some of them I had to ring, lads I'd never met, so it wasn't personal. It was just, they were back in England, Scotland, all over the place, and that was my first month. But I probably realised behind closed doors, we weren't meant to train in December with the PFAI rules, but we did a session and we got the new players in and we kind of trained ourselves. It was actually before your podcast, and we did a bit, and we liked the look of what we had, and we didn't want to be meeting in January, shaking hands, going, how are you, I'm Ken. Do you know what I mean? We wanted to get all that done in December. And then I did say early to John that I thought we could win it because I knew the people I was lucky enough to bring in, and even I know he's here tonight, Dane was someone in the middle of the season that I was leaning on people who I've known a long, long time to come in and help us over a tough period. So I was very lucky with the situation, and I did believe we could win the league. I took the job with that in mind. You can never promise it, but like, that was the objective.
Owen, you've gone through the difficult season with us all. You know what it felt like for us as fans, and you were feeling it. We seen the emotions from yourself at the end of last year. What was it when Ciaran and Ken came to talk to you? Did you say, yeah, that's the project I want to get involved in?
Yeah, well, obviously touching on last season, it was difficult off and on the pitch, but just one thing before they even rang me, just something, even when we were losing, as John touched on, the day we got relegated, I remember especially one was away to Sligo, home to Bows, these are all games we lost, there was always great support. We went down to draw the last game of the season, relegated, and we nearly sold out the away section. It was unbelievable. We'd play poor, we'd lose, we'd be getting stand ovations for 5 minutes. So after seeing that, it's nearly impossible to not be absolutely dying to come back. And then Ciaran was obviously someone I knew as a child. I watched him play, obviously famous European nights. He's a striker as well, and I'm a forward. And when he got appointed, I was excited. And then he rang me and he told me, obviously, the schedule we were doing, the very first day, he told me exactly how he wanted to train, and he stuck by that. He never lied to me. He was always honest, and no, it was really exciting. When he called me, and I really wanted to do it, and it was different to go from last year. You're nearly losing every week, and then now, I think first 9 games only dropped points once or maybe twice. I'm not sure. So to be part of a winning team was special, and that's down to the staff and my teammates. We all have an absolute affinity and great relationship. So it's been such an enjoyable season, and really glad to be able to do it here.
Yeah, I think we were talking before, Ciaran, the mix of players, was that on purpose, or was it by design or by default that you ended up with so many young players and then trying to balance that out with the experience?
No, look, I think we tried to build an honest group, so I never looked at anyone's age profile. We looked at the lads in training, and it didn't matter if you were, Andy Parish if he was 18 or Peter Cherry who was 40 odd. You know what I mean? It was, if you're the right answer to get us to win, it was, we were very consistent with that as a staff all year. We went with who we felt was ready to play. I think, no, look, we got the balance right, but we were also lucky that, you know, the beauty of coming in at the time was I was never at that moment taking the job. They'd already been relegated, so I felt like I might be the manager to get them promoted. Now we're looking down where I don't want to be the manager to get them relegated. So you're kind of going back and forth all the time. There is this transition period now for a club again where, you know, not saying there's uncertainty, but where now the reward for doing a good job as a group is an even bigger job. Yeah. And we all know that. And I just think at the time last year, it was very linear. It was like, okay, well, I don't think the club could have been in any worse condition, you know, from when John came in and when I was taking over. And I didn't worry about Scarp or anything like that, because the deal was I'll worry about building a football team. You tell me what I have, I went and did that. So that was the job. But I got a bit of luck along the way. People who came in, Ronan Murray ended up, I would argue, was the best S&C in the country. He was moving back to Dundalk the week I got the job, just, you know, randomly, and little things lined up, stars aligned a little bit. People I was speaking to were available, and then you always get a head start when the likes of Owen are staying, Daryl Horgan, A. Dervin, and these were the ones that were like, no, I want to be part of this. So we got off to a great start, and it carried us the whole way.
Ciaran, how important do you think getting off to the start you did? I know you spoke to us pre-season about the Athlone game and how important it was that we had the football club to actually go up and support at the time. How important do you think the Athlone game was like a catalyst for the season that was going to unfold?
I think one of the best things we did this year was we always reacted positively to a bad result. We had bad results this year. There's no point getting away from it. But we'd never had this was our first game. The whole thing was put together for that one night against Athlone, and there was a little bit of, I probably wouldn't say I got nervous very often. I wasn't even nervous about Finn Harps. I heard the first chat with Niall where he was like, arguably that game against Harps felt bigger because the stakes were higher. The stakes were promotion or probably not. Whereas if you're winning the Premier Division, which I was lucky to do twice with Dundalk, the stakes were, well, you either win it or you finish second. You're not going to be in the division next year. You're still getting Europe. And so the stakes felt high as the year went on. And that open night was special because I had a probably turbulent exit from Athlone, right? So I'd signed a load of their players and we were playing them on the opening night and they were making a charge for the league themselves. So it looked at the start of the season. And then it was our first night. So there was a huge lot of tension, but we won the game, we played well and we kicked on. And it's a really tough league. There's nothing easy those players went through this year. That was so hard on them. I'm really excited for next year because by the sounds of it, they get applauded off even when they lose in the Premier Division. That wasn't the case in Longford earlier this year. It seems like it's going to be an easier year.
And just when you were putting those results together, like, could you feel the confidence growing amongst the group at that stage? And in particular, I'm thinking like that night when you scored your first against Longford, you know, it really kind of kicked off a lot of expectations around the fans.
Obviously it wasn't plain sailing. Like, we had difficulties. Like, we've had poor results over the season, as the manager said. But no, we really kicked into stride because everyone bought in so much. Like, everyone really enjoyed playing together, and that's so important. And maybe something we didn't have in previous years, where a lot of the time you have teammates. Like, I felt like people on this team are actually close friends, and like will hopefully, as much people stay, but will stay in touch with each other and all that. So it's really special to be playing and winning with people you're so close to. Like, and I feel like that just drives you on even more. Like, last 5 minutes of a game, everyone's tired, but you see your mate and you want to pull through for him. So I think like, nothing beats the feeling of being wrecked after a game and you look to your side and you have a crack on the bus home. Like, so I think we did build great momentum throughout the season. We went on some runs where we won 5 in a row, won 6 in a row, and we always did bounce back from losses really well and setbacks, because the group has a lot of courage and there's a real bond there.
Well, you actually jump in on that. Like, we got a big, probably a shot in the arm seeing the winning Cove there last week.
Yeah.
We had huge support down as always. The game could have been the biggest game ever, but we still treated it, and we got a lot of debuts and a lot of young players come on, and then we scored. Rowan scores late on, and there's 4 lads making their debut, celebrating in front of our supporters. A flare goes off, and then all of our senior players are running down the sideline to join a pylon, and Wardy hit his top speed from this bench to the crowd. But like, There's a real. He's right. They're a great group, and we're in it together. I think we're an approachable staff, and we're with the lads. Don't get me wrong, we're hard on them at times, but I think they enjoy their football for the club right now, which is very important.
And just on that, like obviously we won the league against Hearts, and we were all coming to the training thinking like there's going to be a jolly up now, have a bit of crack at training or whatever. But now we went in Tuesday. We went in Tuesday, and it was straight away doing video on Cove. This is what we need to do. We want to win the game. The fans who are travelling deserve to see us win, and that was the manager's mentality, and obviously we all have to buy into that. So it just shows the lengths that we were going to. We won the league and still treated that like any other game, and as I said, it created a special night that might not have been if we just took it for a friendly.
Your gaffer had a kind of wry smile there when you thought it's going to be easy. Yeah, right. Ciaran, we talked when we were talking about the season review how sometimes these sticky results kind of cut in, draws to 3D and things like that. But then it was like a big game that ended up being Cove time and time again. How, I suppose, from yourself and Ken and the rest of the background team, how did you guys approach that? Did you feel that, was it a confidence thing, or is it a thing, like you said, this division is incredibly difficult. Otherwise, everyone would be walking it all the time. But to build the team back up after one or two sticky results and pivotal games against Cove, and that proved to be possibly the difference of winning the title this year.
Yeah, listen, I think as well with the age profile of the players, Owen has, for example, because he's sitting here, Owen's still only 19. Do you know what I mean? But we nearly treat Owen, I do anyway. I put the expectation on him of a senior pro, and he's growing with that responsibility. But when we hit those sticky patches, they were probably the testing times for me and the staff, because you've a lot of young lads out there, and at times maybe I suppose the game in Longford, for example, maybe Darryl missing a Dervin, Conor O'Keefe, and a few lads just not right. You could see that we were just young lads who were really, but probably not struggling is not the right word, but we were under pressure. I'm a young manager. We were all feeling, okay, listen, these moments are big moments, but they always stood up, these lads, and they're going to be so much better players for it next year, because we had a couple of setbacks as the year went on, but we never lost a league game in Oriel Park. So we felt confident going into that Finn Harps game. We probably had our best week as a staff and group, and leading into that prep for. Dane said it to me. We knew on the pitch before the Finn Harps game we were going to win. We knew there wasn't a doubt. It was just the opening goal was probably the biggest thing. Once we got that, we knew we were prepped. We knew the lads were screwed, heads were screwed on. It was a perfect week, and it finished off with a perfect ending. So we got to know each other as a group and staff, and I trust these lads now. I trust the group. They always come out of any adversity, and as you said, I think going down to Cove, I think you asked earlier on, Niall, again about the best moment, the biggest game. I remember going down to Cove, and I think if we lost, we were off the top. We've literally led pillar to post. No one ever had more points than us in the whole league, and that always, you were there to be shot at. Every draw felt like a defeat, and those lads kept going. The Dervins, the Horgans, the Conor O'Keefes, they drove the dressing room, and we never looked back. We won it by 10 in the end. It was probably the least feeling that you won a league by 10 points ever, but we did, and that'll be in the history books.
Owen, just myself as well, obviously you're a local lad around town. How did you find, obviously, the difficult season last season, and now I know you have your feet in the ground, but how did you find being around town, and the expectation on us this season to win football games, to be involved in a title race, and then obviously win it? But how did you find that being around town, speaking to supporters, speaking to people involved in the club as well? Yeah, well, obviously I've been coming to Oriel since I was 6. When my dad was a manager, it's hard to believe. That's when Ciaran and I was still playing. So I know what it means to play for Dundalk, because I've been there for that long, and obviously I moved here when I was 12, and people in the town have been nothing but supportive. Even, as I said, last season when it wasn't going well, nothing but supportive. This season, you're walking around town and everyone is just wishing you all the best. The support from the people have been excellent. And playing at Oriel's always special, because you're coming when you're younger and you're seeing a lot of lads be watching Premier League. When you see it at Oriel, that's where you want to play. That's where you want to be. And it's a real privilege to play at Oriel. We've had really, really memorable nights this season.
obviously I wasn't able to play the Finn Harps one, but even being there like was absolutely special to lift the trophy with family and that. And we've had, like, I remember Cove 1-0 here, first game of the season, like the crowd was unbelievable, and now absolutely really enjoy playing for Dundalk as a local person.
Excellent. Lifetime contracts. We roll out in front of it.
Stephen Kenny's son.
Didn't know he managed.
No, yeah. Still around.
Ciaran, we done when we done a podcast this year, I always alluded to we Ken and yourself back at pre-season last year. Pre-season kind of, well, Ken probably hung us out the dry stage or training by mistake. But when we had you in, I remember one line in particular, you'd said to yourself that you believed you were the best man for the job at the time. Was there a bit of a pick-me-up period where you had to get the likes of an Dave Devon or an Owen Kenny, a bit of a... We noticed during the season the mentality of the team was completely different. You know, it was never down tools. They were always in games. You know, even if we conceded first, which was rare, we always hung in games where it wasn't there maybe the last season or even the season before. Did you feel you had to work on something about the mentality of the team from a hangover from last season, maybe towards the end of last season in particular?
Yeah, I never, and Owen will testify for it, I never spoke with the year before. It had to be a clean slate.
Yeah.
So even players I met and who might have been one or two who I might have wanted to stay that moved on, it was only if they were willing to forget that. Do you know what I mean? I was coming in with this clean slate, and I think one of the things we did was in my very first week of pre-season, I brought them up to Ravensdale, up to the mountain, and we just got away from Oriel, and Owen remembers it well.
Just on that, it was, remember the snow and the ice, and we woke up, we were like, geez, these runs definitely cancelled, happy days. Like, no, we're going up, run up these,
Fairness, the
run
staff
up these icy mountains, like.
could have got a few injuries. Yeah. No, but look, we were so new that we just wanted to listen. There's no point lying. Coming in as a new manager and staff, we needed to win them over too. But we never left off. I think we set our stall out earlier. This is the way we were going to do it. We were going to be very honest. So there's nothing more honest than running up a mountain. You know, that was as simple as it was. You can throw all the cones down, but we just literally went for the world-class basics, as Darrell Horgan called it, early days. It was like we just needed to get back to what matters. So if you're watching a Dundalk team under our tenure, I think you're going to see lads who are constantly working. You can see it with the young lads the other night. It's if you can't play at that intensity, if you can't run, if you're not fit and getting around, that's what we look for and that's what we go with. And we started that early and we were consistent the whole way through, and it's still the template. The template is honest, like staff, players, I think everyone's given more than you could ask for. I think the club are, I think the fans did. So yeah, I think there's something pure about watching young lads, local lads, Shane Tracy coming back to the club, young lads getting opportunities. And the one thing you'll get with a young player is honesty. They're going to give you everything. There's no, well, you know, I did this elsewhere. And I think it's gone well for us so far as a group, and it's a testament to the players.
Owen, like if we look at your season, lots of goal contributions and scoring at the start, but the middle proved a little tough on the goal scoring front for you. Did you ever lose confidence in yourself, or?
No, I've obviously started the season strong enough, like got a couple of goals at the start, and then there was obviously a period in the middle where I wasn't.
You ended very well, though.
Find the back of the net, but you just can't lose faith. Like, and the manager would never. He was a forward, he understands, and he would have always instilled me with confidence. Like, even when I wasn't going, not that I was playing necessarily in a certain way, but just couldn't, for whatever reason, get the ball in the net for a stretch there in the middle. But no, my teammates around me were very supportive, and the manager was brilliant. And then obviously I was able to finish the season where I think doubled my goal tally in 1 week or something. I don't know what happened there. Like, and then
it's a gaffer.
And then I pushed on from there. And I'd like to think personally that it was a good season for myself. But that is all down to teammates being there for you and providing you with good stuff on the pitch and off the pitch, and obviously the staff always being there for you as well.
Ciaran, that level between competition at the same time players helping each other, is that a hard balance?
Oh, it's competitive as well, don't worry.
Listen, we kill each other. Do you know what I mean? They kill each other, and we and like Owen was just, we were chatting behind there. I don't give free kicks in training, and it drives them mad. But the reality of it is, you want them to self-regulate too. Do you know what I mean? There's a line, obviously. Do you know what I mean? But like, Irvin like is like.
Why aren't we surprised?
Yeah, but like,
planet.
you don't want to change them. You just want to harness them. Do you know what I mean? And you need to work with these players. And even Owen has a competitive streak that comes out, and it can be deemed positive or negative at times. But you're never going to knock it out of him. He's 19. Like you're talking about, at 19, Owen has been relegated, won the league, scored 7 out of 7 on the run in at the crunch time. Like everyone talks about my career at Dundalk. You only remember I've had some bloody stinkers. Maybe somebody do, but like you only remember
We weren't going to mention Rosenborg.
Sure, yeah. they were very rare. But
Jerry Malone will remind you anyway.
Jerry never misses one. But no, listen. The reality was, Owens finished the season. He gets called into the Northern Irish 21s. It's justified now. We have so many lads two lads going to the World Cup, in Vinny and Sean, and like we take Ken in particular. Like Ken's been brilliant with the academy structure. He's been huge on the scouting front, and we keep pushing these players, and the lads are getting rewards for maybe all that work that we did back in January, February, March, April at the end of a season when Owen is, winning us games to win a league, and I can only imagine where that's going to take them all individually.
So many times we were talking post-match, and you were always talking about the atmosphere in the crowd in Oriel Park. It's not like any other ground. They can really pull you over the line when it's needed. And you talked about that being so valuable to your group of players.
Yeah, well, that's probably why we're unbeaten at home. And I'd argue it was harder to be unbeaten at home in the league because every team came to Oriel and probably aren't used to playing in front of 1,500, 2,000 people every week. So it was a big game for them. I know myself when I was playing at UCD, I was looking at when I was playing whoever, if they were the biggest team in that division, Shells, because you go to Tolkien, they'll have 1,200 fans. Most of the time it'll be a couple of hundred. So that's what we bought into early, and we went after the fans. And just for the record, like I was part of some of Dundalk's amazing days. I know I'm going to say it through bias because I'm the manager and we won it, but like that night against Finn Harps was probably one of the most special moments for everybody connected with that club. It was just amazing. Like it was vindication for a lot of faith. We've been through the ringer. Like there's no point lying about it. The club, you heard John's stories, but like we had some bad runs in the league. We had some bad nights. I remember going up, we hadn't lost, and we went up to Finn Harps. And it's a tough place to go at the best time. Leo Gaxa did his ACL. Yeah. We got our first defeat on a Monday night. You're coming home, and it was just like, it was so tough to those lads, and to win it at home, you couldn't have scripted it better. And the occasion and the shed side of the flares that we're not allowed to do anymore, like it was amazing. Do you know what I mean? It was just a picture perfect night. It was, if anything, it's going to help me hopefully retain a lot of these players and sign new ones, because you could sell that. You could sell that in a heartbeat. There's nothing like that in the country. And what a night we had.
How did you feel, in the preparation for the match? Obviously, you probably got word that the fans were going to do something the night before the game, the last training session. How did the players react to that?
I didn't tell them. I was told late. I think Neat had kind of told me, and I was like, okay, and you can go one or two. I didn't tell Ken either, because Ken's the type of fella to go mad at me if I tell him it was going different the night before the game. So I was like, I had to trust that this was going to be worth it. And we had Fionn Kenny as well in after it as well. So we went from a really, really good session to a brilliant, unbelievable display from our fans. And then we went into the media room as a group, and we watched every goal we scored this year. Fionn played live. He must have played El Paso 10 times.
There's a lot of goals.
There was a lot, about 60 odd goals. And we just, you just couldn't. That's kind of coming back to the point I made earlier about on the pitch, Dane saying to me, there's nothing more we could have done. The lads were ready. It was just a matter of executing it, and they did. And it started with the fans display. It was amazing. Something that doesn't happen anywhere else. And I've said this a few times, but we had built a team from other first division. Like we didn't go and sign loads of players from Rovers and who are used to a huge club. It's the first experience for a lot of these lads to win anything. Young lads, Andy Pariship, we signed from Gleam North, Dean Ebbe, all them lads from Athlone. They were standing there. Can you imagine the buzz that must have felt? Because us as staff and players, we got a buzz. So we were going home. Like my biggest fear was would they be able to sleep the night before the match? Like they were ready at that point, and it was just an amazing thing. When
the two of you look back on that season, is there one moment that either of you are most proud of, or something that just stuck out, taking away obviously the last day, or is that it?
The day we got the licence. I took the job without it. Do you know what I mean? So I was going around telling players this was the plan and this was it. But I remember getting word off John and Peter that we were late, I think, as well. Didn't get on the first round. And getting that over the line, there was a lot of people who it was a leap of faith, I think I called it in my first interview. And to know that there was going to be a game of football, I know that seems the cliche answer, but that was a big one for me. It was like, okay, well, I'm actually going to get an opportunity to manage Dundalk now. I took the job hoping, and we just took off from there. So for me, it was the day we knew there'd be football in Oriel.
No, obviously, loads, like countless. There was even ones in pre-season, like obviously we talked about running up the mountains, and this sounds stupid, but we actually came back to Oriel then and played, I don't know if you know, the board game, 30 seconds as a team. And we had good crack, and I think after that, we knew it was going to be a great group to be part of. And but I think my favourite moment of the season was probably we had just lost to Finn Harps away, as the manager said, and I think it would have been easy for us to feel the pressure. Cove came to Oriel, 1 point behind us, so obviously if they bet us, they would have went ahead of us, and it was a really big crowd in Oriel, and Bemi scored an absolutely excellent goal in the first 15 minutes, and we won 1-0, and then I think we started to kick on from there, so that was probably personally my favourite game of the season.
There was probably one more moment of, I know you're going to probably laugh, but signing Wardy. Right? Because he was
Copying my haircut as well.
no, he's that type of player that, like, I don't think you were going to sign him first and build around him. You were going to add him, and he, from his footballing ability to his run in the dressing room, I played with him. I won a first division with him at UCD together, and we said it to each other at that night of Finn Harps game. Like, here we are again, 16 years later, trying to win this tin, and like he's going, we wouldn't change it. And I think Owen, like Wardy is so good to the young players as well. He leads in his own way. He's very approachable. He's a child. Do you know what I mean? But I think when adding him late in pre-season or during pre-season, probably because he wouldn't have got through the mountains. Like, it was just the perfect time. And like Dervin and Horgs have often said to me, it was the signing of the season, because we were a young group, and he can just listen. When we actually watched the goals back, some of his moments, his volley against Wexford when we were on the ropes, and he delivered at big moments. His goal against Kerry to make it 3-3. He delivered, and I'm saying he was a wild card, but you signed 35-year-old for his 20th stint at the club. You're kind of going, hope this works, and it worked, and it's testament to him, because he played a big role both on and off the pitch this year.
And just adding on that, like, he's been obviously, he said, for a young lad, he's been unbelievable for us. Like, he actually has really, like, unlikely, probably really close friendships with like Shane Tracy, Andy. Like, they have class crack in the change room. Like,
FIFA with him.
You'd never laugh so much. Like, and he's been great for all of us. And even on the pitch, like, I don't know if you see him, like, sometimes we're playing, and if he's not on the pitch, he's on the bench, he's running up and down the touchline shouting instructions and all. Like, like, he's nearly playing with you. And then obviously when he's on the pitch, his information's, he has actually a really intelligent mind for the game, and obviously he has loads of talent, like, so he's helped the team in every way. Like,
I remember the day you signed Wardy. I was in the canteen with you, and you said, "Here's Wardy," and I said, "How do you know?" And then you could just hear him a mile off, and then he bounced in. All right, guys.
He was just. He's someone that I knew at a time that, again, back to the trust element, there was no risk in Ken for me. I knew him. There was no risk in Dane. I knew him. There was no risk with Jerry Spain. There was no risk with Wardy for me, because I know what he was going to bring. He was never going to let me down in that capacity. So, just a brilliant character. And I think he can, every time he comes on the pitch, people are shouting on him for loads of reasons, but he's just that type of guy that I think epitomised us this year, and he was a perfect kind of turning moment, I think, for us.
I'm sure I'm going to get two different perspectives on this question. First and foremost, like, the under-21 call-up, it must be amazing for you.
Yeah, obviously it was great. Like, I had a good week, obviously, with Dundalk, and then Tommy Wright just called me, and he said, "We want to call you up. How do you feel about it?" And obviously, the way that he spoke to me and the way he treated me, I really wanted to do it. And obviously we went up and we played. It was a mad experience. Like, we went to Georgia, probably a country like you'd never go to. Like, and to see that, like, and we got a good result away from home. And then obviously there was a whole thing here that I obviously couldn't play that game. against Finn Harps, it obviously wasn't my decision. It's FIFA regulations to protect the national teams. Once you're called up, that's that. Like, you don't have a say in it. But we played Malta, we won 2-0, and then we played Germany in the level that some of them lads are playing at. Like, the lad who scored against us scored against Dortmund for Leipzig and all. Like, it's mental. So to have them experiences will be special. And now we've 2 more games against Latvia and Greece now coming up. So hopefully I get in those squads. So there's no rest, you know. But no, it were great experiences.
Ciaran, I know your frustration of international call-ups throughout the year, and in particular that Wexford match going down and the Longford game at home.
Listen, I've been banging that drum all year, and someone has yet to tell me a positive. Like, it has to change. And I hope I'm not getting too deep here with Owen, but Owen missed the Finn Harps game. You know, which he knew, which hurt him. Like, and it hurt me because we were no guaranteed to win it. Of course, we felt like we would, but we also dropped points in Wexford, and I'd argue if we had maybe Vinny on that night or Owen on that night, we would have won the game. So it could have been cost you everything. Obviously, going into the game, it's all right, we get away with it and we win the league anyway. But like, I said it from the very first, and everyone was like, why is he still moaning about it? They have a great squad. But the reality was, it's moments like that. Like, Vinny got an exemption. Vinny could have easily missed that, and then Vinny wouldn't have scored that goal that'll be remembered forever. Imagine what that's going to do for him as a 17-year-old. So it was just, it was a shame. It annoyed me all year because it made no sense. And it's not even that. It was an integrity thing for the league, because even teams are playing teams weaker at different times. Do you know what I mean? Because, they have them during the international break. They've missing X, Y, and Z. It wasn't just an us thing. It did affect the whole league. And to be fair, every manager and everyone above that I've spoken to within the FAI are all nearly in agreement. It makes no sense. But I just would hate to see people miss out on things, being punished to play for the country they represent.
Well, I just think, personally for me, obviously, it is a really tough thing. Like, whatever about the last game, even missing Wexford away was hurtful for me. Like, because you want to play. I missed 2 games all season, like featured in 35 out of 37, and the 2 I missed were because of international duty. Which I really enjoyed the international camps, but I think because everyone now is staying till they're 18, there's so many young players in the first division who are playing international football. If you look at the World Cup squad, you have Vinny, Sean, there's a guy at Wexford, 2 lads at Finn Harps. Like, it makes no logical sense that there wouldn't be international breaks for the amount of players now who are representing their countries. I know UCD have a few as well, so there should be. Like,
yeah. Ciaran, we'll wrap up fairly soon, and I will ask you about next year, which I'm sure you're sick to the teeth of. But just a final point on this year, something we talked about all season long, and you were looking at Cove and it's Barry Coffey scoring lots of goals and Mikey Rowe at Wexford. Are you really proud of the fact you had 4 players score double digits this year? Like, that shows the contribution right throughout that team.
Yeah, look, we were a proper team this year. People stood up at different moments when we needed it. Them. Like, even Owen went on a run of goals when we needed it the most. Darryl went on a run of goals when we needed it the most. And Darryl played. There's no point lying now, it's over. Like, there was no way he was fit to play. We could probably see that from the stands. But they stood up at critical moments, come up with big goals, big penalties, you know. And Bemi, I remember sticking 2 penalties, I think it was against UCD or whatever. And these were huge moments. And that's the beauty of football, was that I would like to say, regardless of my flaws, I always had character to score a big goal. And I think that was always something that boded well for me. And I'm really lucky with the group we had. That a lot of lads probably on that run-in felt they could have a moment. And even before we went out for the second half against Harps, it's 0-0 at half time. I'm not really aware of the result or to score in Longford, because you can't control it, and we need goals. And I remember stopping them at the door, and I was like, this is our end for all the famous goals, from Gertz's goal to Stevie O'Donnell's goals, to a lot of big goals were scored at that end. And we were trying to visualise it, do you know what I mean? And then 3 of them get moments in that end in front of that crowd. Yeah, like, just amazing. Like, and it's testament to loads of lads coming up with goals and moments that we needed along the way, and it was a brilliant story. Yeah,
like, Owen, did you set yourself a goal at the start of the season, how many you could get it, like, or?
Well, I remember there was a Cove game we won 1-0, and I'd actually, in my opinion, I'd had a good game. But I remember I sat in with Conor O'Keefe, Chief, after the game. We were chatting. I was saying, I'm happy with how it's going. I'm happy with how I'm doing, but I feel I want more goals. Like, I need more. And he was just sat me down. He was like, once you get one or two, the rest will follow. Like it'll all like come at once. Like, and at the time you're thinking like, no way. But then you saw he just said set a target like for the end of the season, set a realistic target. He said like set 6 for the rest of the season. And obviously I was able to surpass that again. But he was right. Like once I got one against Longford after not probably scoring for a while, and then I got 3 that week. You know what I mean? So he was correct in that. So to answer your question, I did set goals. And I appreciate Chief for guiding me in that. But no, that is something you have to do. I feel like as a forward, and it helped me.
And that's probably invaluable for you. You probably mightn't even known of that story, but for real leaders in your squad to be going around and putting the arm around the shoulder of the younger lads and bringing them on, like it's probably invaluable, isn't it?
Yeah, it's massive. And look, in fairness to Owen, Owen came to me and he was at 9, then he's telling me he could play in the 10. I played him all year on the right. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't like, it's hard to set a goal when he doesn't at the start of the year when I was trying to figure out where is he going to play, and we've new players coming in, and Owen had to earn his position, and then he had to keep the faith in. We had to keep faith in him, and he had to earn it. So, yeah, to answer your question, it was actually something Ed Irvin said to me on the way home from Cove. He said, "What would you have done like if you hadn't beaten Harps and we had to go down there? Like, what would you have said to us?" And I was like, I probably wouldn't have had to say much because the dressing room had to, back to the original thing, self-regulate itself. Like, we're not there. Like, as brilliant as Stephen Kenny was with us, what we really had as well was he built a great group. And the people I had to answer to at that time, I very rarely remember having to have chats with Stephen. It was my teammates. It was Massey. It was Steve O'Donnell. We were all leaders. So the dressing room, we have full faith that we don't go near their dressing room and mat training. They have their own space, and you hope you've just put enough in there. And stories like that, I'm not surprised because I saw a lot of players can pick up it, and they're a very close group, and that's probably by design.
Did you have any discussions at home yet?
Plenty, yeah. Yeah, look, and listen, like, you know, I've no plans to be anywhere else. Do you know what I mean? I think it's just, I'm at that same moment we were at the start of last year where you're kind of educating yourself on how it's going to look. I think the league ended 96 hours ago. You know, so like you're kind of going, everyone wants what's now, and I'm there too. Do you know, we're all itching to go again, but the club has, as I said, it's evolving now. You know, we're going back to the scene of the crime. You know, it's the last time that league is booming, and we nearly closed our doors. So I imagine there is that little bit of trepidation of how we're going to do this, and everyone's asking everyone the same question, and I get asked after matches. And you're kind of, what's next year look like? And the reality of it is, I don't really know just yet. Like, and that might be okay for now. There is an urgency about it, and I want to get cracking and all of that, and everyone is. But like, I suppose John mentioned earlier as well about sustainability. We don't want to make mistakes now. We're in this critical moment of we're after winning that, and everyone's going, "Oh, we're back," and we're not. Like, there's no point admitting it. Like, I think Nita said there. Hopefully we'll silverware again next year. I was down the back on, unless, I don't know.
You get new spoons.
Leinster Senior Cup maybe, or like, but like the reality is we're not going to go straight back up and back to challenging for titles. This is brick by brick kind of thing. So there probably is no immediate definite answer to it yet. We're just trying to figure out the lay of the land and the landscape. But of course, like everyone in the room and like the players and me, I'm sure we're all excited for next year.
Yeah, look, I think us all as fans are deeply indebted to your team and your teammates for, you know, the season that we've had. We've come from a real low point just over 12 months ago where we don't know if Dundee Football Club was going to be here, to someone to be able to fast forward and say, here's some silverware. You've won a title, and to get back to the Premier Division would have been something of fantasy. So I think on behalf of ourselves here, and I'm sure everyone else in the room, you know, thank you so much, and maybe just a round of applause for the lads on the team. Good to go. So we're going to just take one small break now to bring Finian out, who's going to close out the show for us as well. So I think on behalf of myself here and the lads on the podcast, we just want to say a big thank you to all our guests here tonight. So maybe just a round of applause for Niall Newberry, for John Temple, Rita Whelan, and of course, Ciaran Kilduff. and Owen Kenny here as well. Thanks everyone for sticking with us throughout season 5. Something that started way back in COVID times. We didn't think would be still going for the moment it's in it. So we also just want to say a big thanks to Mark Carlin, who's been a real backer and supporter of us all season long on the podcast, and to Kevin and his team here, who's done all the production side, to cameramen here. Thank you so much for that. For Derek Turner in the Spirit Store, just to put on something in a venue, just for something a little different. We just thought it would be brilliant, and to have the trophy here and everything, it's a lovely crescendo for the season here. So once again, just a round of applause for the two lads.
Thanks, guys.
That's it. Well done, Pat. Well done. Well done. Thanks,